Hey, son, I got roped into attending something called the Motor City Comic Con last weekend. Not my thing. For people who really get into Marvel, Star Wars, superheroes, that sort of thing. But I wound up having a good time. People, they were fun. They were all happy. They got to meet their celebrity heroes. It was good, but it made me think there should be an F1 con. You get to meet. I mean, you can go to a race. That's obviously the big deal. But I saw that only about 1% of the global F1 TV audience ever goes to a race. They just can't. Too much money, not in their city. But I was like, have these little F1 cons in cities around the country, around the world. Former drivers, announcers, um, former engineers. I don't know. You can sell your F1 wares, dress up as your favorite driver, get pictures with your favorite driver. They could have Sims there, big media announcements. Anyway, I thought it was a good idea because Comic Con was not my thing, and I still enjoyed it. So I think F1 Con, whatever con stands for, I'm not quite sure.
Convention.
Oh, convention. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. We need an F1 convention, son. All right, you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Hello, welcome to Hard Compounded American Take on Formula One with your host, Brian and Patrick. The Canadian Grand Prix, Montreal. We just finished that. Race number 5. My goodness. At this rate, the 2026 season is going to finish in 2027. But it was good. So good they even gave us, 5, 6, 7 formation laps, it seemed like. All right. Son, who do you give the flowers to for the Canadian Grand Prix?
Well, I mean, Montreal's great. Everybody loves Montreal, which is unfortunate because then it gives those, French Canadians more to toot their own horn about, but, we'll let them. This was a great race, always a great race. I think we have to go with the old man, Lewis Hamilton. And all seemed sort of right in the Lewis Hamilton world this weekend. He was clearly outperforming Leclerc, got on the podium, great qualifying, everything just seemed to go his way, and ended up finishing P2, had a fun battle with Max, kind of figured out how to set up a move and then make that move. It looked like kind of like he was actually having fun, enjoying himself and racing like he can or maybe even should. In his time at Ferrari, he really hasn't looked like he's performing how we think he should. But this race, I think he really did. Of all drivers out there, I think there are a number that did really, really well. But Lewis was kind of the one where it was like, okay, you've had a year plus at this point, and now you are finally getting it done. So
yeah, well, it's funny because he's him, Alonso, Hulk, there's Bottas, Perez. There's several old guys, but yeah, I think of the old men, Lewis had the best weekend. I think the young men had good weekends. Kimi, Colapinto, up into the race, Lindblad, Liam Lawson. I thought it was good overall. So I guess though the story of the Canadian Grand Prix is Kimi Antonelli. That's 4 in a row. I mean, that Mercedes, I was going to say it looks close to unbeatable, but I mean, there's the George heartbreak. It's reliability. His car DNF. Lando had some issues. This has happened a bit this season. So I think that's a bit of a wild card. Mercedes has looked dominant. The Mercedes power unit has looked superior. But we'll see. That reliability is still to be determined because, as I said, we're really only 5 races in. But George, damn, wins a sprint. He gets the pole. He battles out Kimi. Then DNF. That's rough. I don't know. That's rough. I mean, in a weekend where I think George was trying to push Kimi around on the sprint, I think, Kimi kind of got hardened. Iron sharpens iron. I think Kimi got hardened, and then boom, look, yet another lucky break. I mean, luck can happen in sports, but you can also make your own luck. Kimi had nothing to do with George's DNF, but damn, he's pulling away.
Yeah, it was pretty big swing. But I mean, Kimi is, I think, even sort of had George not had any power unit issues. Kimi made it clear that he intends to fight for the championship, which certainly going into the season, I don't think anybody anticipated. And even, up until this weekend, I think everyone was kind of like, oh, well, he's had some good races. George has had some bad luck or whatever it might be. But in the sprint, George won. He beat him out. He won that battle. But Kimi let him know, and he was coming for him the whole time.
Yeah.
And in this race, same thing happened. Kimi was there, and he was pushing George, making him make mistakes. Kimi made some mistakes too. Ultimately, it was just back and forth. But it's like, well, if this is how the season's going to be, one, that's exciting. And two, George is going to have to roll up his sleeves a little bit here, because I think he was drinking the Kool-Aid before the season started, just going, this is mine. I have it in the bag. And he came out, and it looked like, George is going to win. Kimi looks good. The Mercedes looks good. Now, 5 races in, we're seeing this is going to be, I would expect it to be like a Hamilton-Rosberg fight.
Nice. That's
for the rest of the season.
If you're going to have a dominant car, then I want an intra-team battle. And, I think you're right about George thinking he had it. I mean, he at minimum went toe-to-toe with Lewis when both were Mercedes together. And that was Lewis's team. And I think George thought, now Lewis is gone. It's not my team. But Kimi's right there with him. Okay, George has had some bad luck. DNF this race. That's 25 points down. I forget, was it China? I know he pitted right before a Behrman crash, and then, and then I think Kimi went on to win that one. Maybe that was Miami. I'm misremembering, but so he has had some bad luck, but nonetheless, Kimi's been right there. And Toto, I think George was hoping Toto might give some sort of definitive answer about, we're not going to let them fight. Sort of like when Bottas was there, it's like, hey, this is Lewis's team. Bottas, you're there to come in second. I think George was kind of hoping Toto would do something similar. Like, this is George's team. Kimi's going to come in second. Toto hasn't done that. Toto's so let him fight.
Yeah, I think until it becomes problematic for the team, Toto will kind of let it go a little bit. Seems like, anyways. I think if any other team shows that they're going to get close, I think he'll tighten the rein and make sure that they don't scrap too much. I don't necessarily think he'll just tell them to leave each other alone, like whatever. But yeah, I mean, this is fun. It's exciting. I think Mercedes is obviously the clear front runner, so those two are, there to battle it out right now. But I do like that it doesn't quite feel so much like Mercedes is just going to run away from the rest of the field like it did back in 2014 to 2017 kind of thing. Because at the end of the day, like the next best driver or team is only like, I don't know, 5 to 15 seconds behind after the full race so far this season. So that to me says like the field is a lot more competitive than it was at the start of that turbo hybrid era. So I think we're getting the Mercedes team is going to win. Antonelli, Russell are going to battle it out for that top driver spot. But at least there's still that like competition. They have to be a little bit wary of the other, top three teams
Yeah.
in
I think
Ferrari, Red Bull, and McLaren. So I think that's good. That keeps them honest, and I think it makes the whole race more intriguing.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because I think Mercedes is too good this year, but you're right. It's not just a foregone conclusion they're going to win every race. So I think cumulatively they're going to prove a good bit better. But race to race, I mean, McLaren brought up grades, didn't help, but part of that was strategy, weather, colder, bit rainy. But yeah, there are I think every race we sort of think, oh, Mercedes will win it or be right up there, but there's a chance Ferrari gets on the podium. There's a chance Red Bull gets on the podium. For example, there's a chance McLaren gets on the podium and wins. So, but when you look at the standings, I mean, just 5 weekends in, okay. But Kimi has 131 points. George is 43 behind now, 88. And if we go, spoiler alert, one of my crazy predictions for this episode is all the Middle East races will be canceled this year and none will be made up. So that's 20 race weekends. So we're now 25% in. Okay. I mean, that window is narrowing for George. We don't have 19 more races then. We'll have 17. No, I did bad math. So, so instead of having
As of right
19
now, I think
races,
there's
yeah,
17 on the calendar, right? But
right. So, um, yeah, I think that window's going to narrow. So yeah, let's look at driver standings real fast. Kimmy's 131, George a distant second at 88, Charles a distant third at 75, Lewis right behind him at 72, and then Lindo at 58, Oscar at 48, Max at 43. So, um, he talked up Lewis at the start of the week. There were rumors like, oh, this is going to be Lewis's last year. He was going to leave F1, not just leave Ferrari, but leave the scene. And he sort of shot those down. Given his age, I still, and where Ferrari is, I wouldn't be shocked if he left, but I think he shot those down.
yeah, I don't think it seemed to me that he's pretty emphatic. He wants to stick around for a long time. I don't know if he's trying to hold out until Alonso leaves. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to leave before Alonso leaves. I'm not sure, but
Lonzo's never leaving.
he's never leaving. He's gonna die in the car.
Right. Of old age.
Yeah, but especially if he can consistently find the podium, right? I think he has 2 podiums this year already. He had none last year. So I think he's already enjoying it more,
Right.
finding that he can have some level of success. I think if that continues, like he'll sort of find what he enjoys about F1 again. It seemed like before he was just using it as a platform for himself and his sort of brand, more than just like I want to race.
But you wonder though, like, is Lewis content for podiums at his age and after all these guys? It's sort of like Tom Brady. It's like after 7 Super Bowls, it's like, okay, Tom, you're never going to win another Super Bowl, but you can be on teams that probably will make the playoffs. Is he going to stick around for that? At age 40 or whatever he is, I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
don't know.
We'll see.
I think at the very least, this currently early on in this season, the performances have given him maybe some hope that, uh, you know, in the near future, it will be possible to kind of consistently fight for wins rather than simply podiums. So
We'll see.
we'll see.
I mean, but there are some guys. I mean, there were rumors Ocon was going to be let go. That would not surprise me,
Yeah.
given he just hasn't looked all that comfortable in 2 years, really. And so that's another one that wouldn't surprise me. But there's ones that I think I might be surprised, but I'm kind of rooting for. It's like, I mean, Bottas, it's like, look, he's not getting anything done. I'm sure he's giving them good feedback. He's a Cadillac. He's not wrecking the car, but, I'm not sure what the point of Bottas is. Um, Stroll is like another,
Yeah.
he had now has the record for most, Q1 eliminations in F1 history.
Yeah, that's maybe not the record he was shooting for. I think those are the bottom three finishers of this race also. So that's maybe no surprise there on who should be.
Well, let's look at team standings real quick. Mercedes definitely out in front, 219. Ferrari at 147. Then McLaren only 106. It was a bad Sunday for McLaren. Oscar, what did he clipped Albon? I think no points. Lando didn't finish. Tough. Red Bull could have made up some ground. Max had a good Sunday. Hadjar not so much. They're at 57 points, so it's quite a gap. Mercedes 219, then a big gap to Ferrari 147, then a gap to McLaren 106, then Red Bull down at 57, then Alpine. I mean, it's nice to see 35. Then Racing Bulls and Haas basically about the same. So
Yeah, that's that. I think it's good overall spread. I think we'll end up with three teams kind of battling for second, third, and fourth, it seems like.
right,
And then Mercedes is probably on the whole, as you were saying, is gonna kind of run away with it. But we'll see. I think individually, like drivers and teams, it seems sort of like they're constantly fluctuating, changing who is sort of the lead, which is kind of fun to see. I mean, the last couple of weekends, it seems like Colapinto has been maybe better than Gasly, or at least more comfortable
yeah,
than Gasly at Alpine. So that's kind of fun. I think that'll be an interesting um, team to watch. It seems like they kind of have a hold potentially on that uh, fifth position.
yeah. Like I don't, not that I'm, for example, wanting to get rid of Ocon. I kind of am, but I mean, I think look, Behrman is younger, less experienced, and I think doing a better job. Let's make him the number one guy there, and let's try somebody else. We'll see. The spending cap really changes the rules so much. The sport is so popular that they don't have to scramble so desperately for sponsor money. And then in the race themselves, you don't necessarily want, someone young, even if he's cheaper, even if he's potentially faster, because it's like, look, you can't crash the car. You really hem us in when we have to spend, another million because you crashed. So it's different rules for this year of F1, but overall, I thought Canada was good. I mean, usually is. I mean, I think the only downside to this race really was it would just overshadow the Indy 500. I'm not sure how many folks outside the U.S. watch it, but look, the pageantry of the Indy 500, the traditions of Indy 500, the start with the fighter jets, flyover, the helicopters, taps, national anthem, and then the race was fun. And then they had like a 9-lap shootout.
The end of
Game
that
three
race was
guys.
crazy,
It was.
crazy.
First and second was crazy. Third, fourth, fifth was crazy. Shit, Grosjean made it in the top 10. I mean, um, there's not many races that are going to hold up against Indy 500. It used to be Monaco, and with the tradition and pageantry, Monaco could kind of hold its own. Maybe the Daytona 500, which isn't the same time, but yeah, that's a tough act to compete against.
Yeah, agreed. I think there was I mean, this race was fun. Montreal, I think, is great, but it seems like it just seems like this is maybe a college football game being played on a Sunday,
Right.
Like maybe don't do that. Maybe next weekend
Yeah.
have your race instead,
Right.
actually.
Right.
Um
That's a good
it,
analogy. Even if it was the best game, it's still going to
right.
be
Yeah.
lesser viewed of lesser importance.
Um so yeah, it's tough. I mean, Indy 500 is great. Everybody knows about the Indy 500, wants to watch the Indy 500, wants to drive the Indy 500. I mean, Formula 1 drivers, NASCAR drivers, everyone wants to drive in the Indy 500. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah. It's so good. I mean, you have these, they can be jerks like, oh, just a left hand drive. I'm like, shut the hell up. There are times when it's like, look, I want this car to go as fucking fast as it possibly can through that crowd, flat out for 500 miles, and let's see. And look what, and it was hundreds of seconds. These,
Yeah, it was
first,
awesome.
second, third,
500
fourth, fifth.
miles, and it was like 300ths of a second or whatever it was, between first and second place, which is just like catastrophically disappointing for Malukas, I think, came in second place. But yeah, F1, tons of fun. I would love to see 22 F1 cars on an oval. I know that will never happen, but my God, that would be one of the
One race.
greatest spectacles I think we could witness. Um, so I don't know. I would love to see that. I would petition for that to happen.
Switching to the soft compound, I saw, I don't have it up on my screen, article in the Telegraph, which I think is a British newspaper, the top 20 Formula One drivers ever. Bit of it was clickbait. I don't know if you saw it. So number 20, that Graham Hill, and then number 19, Damon Hill. I'm like, this is just bullshit, rage bait. You're not going to put Damon Hill above Graham Hill, and then like 20 and 19. I was like, come on. I don't know. But then, and then Nico Rosberg at 18. Nico was good, but I don't know if I would have him in the top 20 of all time. Alonso at 15, that seemed low to me. I mean, dude's been racing for 2 championships, gets the most out of every car, multiple generations of power units of design focus. I think 15 is too low. Top 5, they had Fangio at number 1, Schumacher at number 2, Lewis at number 3, Jim Clark at number 4, Ayrton Senna 5, Alain Prost at 6, Max at 7, Jackie Stewart at 8. Which I think it's that the top 8 is sort of like, well, you can't really argue with it. It's like, oh no, Fangio, there's a different world. It should be Lewis, or no, it's got to be Schumacher. But I thought that was 10 to 20, 11 to 20. I had some issues with, but the top 8 I thought was tough to argue with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's always, you're always going to have naysayers and whatever. But I think it's also difficult to kind of compare drivers across different eras. There have been so many different, it's just, yeah, it's tough because the longevity of drivers nowadays is clearly like much greater than it used to be. Even, when Schumacher came along, is like F1 started to become kind of this like big global endeavor that, they were really trying to protect those drivers and make sure that, these were athletes that were not going to just like disappear or die, what have
Right.
you,
Well, yeah,
So I
because
think
like,
that that's sort of difficult is like, uh, I mean, there are a few guys on that list. It seemed like that it's like, well, your career was cut extremely short. And so it's either like, well, because it was so short, we're going to rank you lower because we don't have a full sample. Or in the sample we do have, we're going to rank you much higher because you were so good during that. But it's like, well, if Alonso died, God forbid, like immediately after he won a second championship, would he be higher on the list
right,
or
that's a good point.
lower? Right? Like,
Yeah, well, in different the eras, like, I know I'm going to sound like I'm slandering Lewis, but I think you could make the case that Lewis Hamilton should be number 1, and make the case that there's no effing way he would have drove F1 in the 50s and 60s. I mean, he was like, what the hell? No, everybody's dying. I'm not going out there. You're insane. I'm not going to do that. Even in the 70s, he was, in my opinion, in my limited knowledge of Lewis Hamilton, I think he would have been like, oh, I'm doing something else with my life. That's just stupid going out there. It's hard to say across years who's going to be better or not.
yeah, it's tough. I think there is certainly some sort of respect, I guess, you have to have for the guys that raced in those like just ridiculous, insane times. I mean, because all they cared about was going fast, right?
Yeah.
It was like there's not another thought in my brain.
Right.
It's kind of like that final race scene or whatever in F1, the movie, right? Where it's like everything's quiet. You just are going on and driving the car flat out as fast as you can. It seems like that's what these guys were doing. Jackie Stewart, Senna, Lauda, all these guys. Nowadays, it's like, well, it's kind of hard to see because it's a little wet out. So maybe let's stop the race. And I think there is absolutely validity to that.
Right.
But at the
Oh,
same
yeah.
time, I'm like, yeah, but 40 years ago, they were going flat out there. And
Death on the line, right. And now it's like, oh, look, because of his flashing lights, I know the status of his battery, our dirty air segment. Kind of a continuation of a theme. I'll call this Nerds in the Paddock. Can you go flat out? I mean, we want the drivers to go flat out. We want these cars to be as badass as possible. But the fact of the matter is technology, not just sponsor money, not just because Google and Anthropic and Amazon or an Oracle are putting money into F1, but just the technology itself leads you into designing and building a car where going flat out is almost impossible to be the point. I mean, that's why I call the segment, Nerds in the Paddock. It's forget James Hunt, forget the Grid Girls and Marlboro ads. This is now, we got software guys, we got aerodynamicists, we got people running cloud-based simulations, we've got data scientists calling through data. We got software algorithms and batteries impacting the car. I don't know if this is good or bad. I do know that it's, even if the dudes who go out there to claim that they're real fans and don't like this new power unit, they don't like the hybrid. If you were to just have an ICE power unit, let's call it still, and just say go flat out, well, you can't. You'd be denying too much technology and knowledge. But the problem is that technology and knowledge now sort of limits the driver's ability to just be like, no, I'm taking this car to its absolute limit and I have total control.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? I don't think it matters so much where your power is coming from. Uh, these are power units that are generating essentially more power than any power unit ever has in Formula One. Yeah, half of it is coming from a battery electric power, but so they're
Right. Well,
still zooming off at 200 plus
right.
miles an hour down these straights.
Which they've also run this course. Alonso could say, "Oh, I've done this course 20 times." It's like, no, you've done this course now 1,000 times because of simulations. You have data scientists analyzing everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely sims are useful. I think all of this stuff is useful and can influence how fast basically these cars and drivers can get around the track. And there's a lot of people doing a lot of complex things to basically push the sport forward and continually make it better, make it faster. I don't want to say better necessarily, but it's changing. The sport as a whole is changing. There's more. If let's say one team stayed a dinosaur and went, nah, we're just gonna pay the fastest driver and we're gonna throw out a car, that was just I don't know, stamped out basically. They would be last. They would
Right.
be way behind Cadillac right now.
Right.
So in order to remain competitive, you need a lot of people doing a lot of different things and each of them sort of specializing in those things. and yet they're all freaking nerds, which is both good and bad.
Right.
And I think you need someone who is extremely good at sort of distilling all of those things, all of that information, and finding out what actually works best. Because nerds have no concept of a bigger picture than what they're working on. Okay, it's just the way of the world, and they need to be pointed in the correct direction. And then when they provide good quality information, then somebody needs to take that from all of them and, uh, you know, put together a good car, a good strategy for the weekend. You know, all these different things need to come together, and a lot of people work on that in order to make it, you know, as successful as it is. And so I think that's why we see how close all these teams are. I mean, there are a couple that are really struggling, but within a year or two, I think we'll see kind of all the teams get get bunched up pretty close. And a lot of that is to do with all of the work that everybody does. Um, Generally speaking, I think it's all good. I like the idea of kind of going back to the 60s, 70s, 80s F1, you know, where it was just throw out some crazy ideas. We'll put side skirts on a Lotus and see what happens, you know? Like all those are awesome. That would fail in today's F1 because it's not like it's too slow. The development is too slow, right? So that's where all these simulations and you know, wind tunnel time comes in. It's like that helps you develop things really, really quickly. And that's why everybody gets better throughout the season so fast. So I don't know.
Let's do our Ask the Stewards segment. Does Drive to Survive matter? I watched it. Does it still matter? It definitely has mattered. I don't know if it still matters. I mean, I watched it. I got a month of Netflix and watched it. It was fine. Um, you know, it's like if once a year they came out with a new Star Trek series, it was 8 episodes. I'm like, okay, I'll watch that. That was fun. You know, I don't know if it hits the same way though.
Yeah, I think in terms of like F1 uh growth or like reach, maybe it's a better word. It doesn't really seem to matter at this point. I think everybody that would be interested in Formula One through Drive to Survive has seen it and is now interested in Formula One, right? Like at this point, I don't think they're reaching a wider audience
Yeah.
through Drive to Survive. So
Right.
it doesn't necessarily matter in that aspect, but I think people kind of might like to relive some of the drama of the previous season or get maybe better insight into certain events that went on or what have you. I'm not sure. Or just, you know, as a prep for the next season, they just are
Right.
like, okay, uh, remind me what happened last season, even if
Right.
it's wildly out of order, maybe sort of inaccurate.
Yeah.
We'll watch it.
I think, yeah, the cultural reverberations have sort of worked their way through the sport, through the culture. And I think now to sort of incremental gains, like, oh, maybe next year I'll get to know Lindblad a little bit better, that sort of a thing.
Mhm.
Or it's kind of a, as you said, kind of get me primed for the coming season. Somebody asked me this: what percentage? Because especially with all these rumors of Max maybe leaving F1, which is bullshit. You don't leave a job where they're paying you $80 million a year. Okay, not if you have a wife who has your baby. You do not. But ask me, you know, what percentage it makes up a Formula One winning team? You know, what percentage is the driver, is the car, and then the pit crew and or rest of the staff? And it's like, I don't really know. I mean, you have a driver like Max. I mean, imagine in the Indy 500 where it was hundredths of a second. It's like, okay, I'll give that to the driver, but and they don't have two power units. They don't have two engine makers, but what percentage is the car? What percentage is the pit, the paddock crew, then back in the headquarters? That's hard to say. I mean, in the sport where, you know, hundredths of a second matter, tenths of a second in Formula One matter, you got to start with your driver, even if it, he's not even, let's say, a third of it. But it's sort of like, look, everything else is the foundation. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say like 67 car, 30 driver, 3 pit,
Wow.
something like that, right? I mean, I don't intend to be like disrespectful, I guess, to like the pit crew or whatever, but like
Yeah. They're
in
busting their
terms
ass.
of
Yeah.
how much they impact like the full scope of the season, like it's mostly the car. And if you have two of the same car, then it's the driver and then it's your pit crew. Like, I don't know.
Oh, so here's another one. Do we need this for F1? I don't really watch golf, don't know that much about it, but I saw that the Masters, big golf tournament, the Masters, created a search function and you can search for and find video of any shot. So any golfer making any shot on any hole on the Masters between 1968 and 2025. Wouldn't that be like, oh, let me see Alonso's 2008 on board, at Silverstone at this corner? I mean, that would be pretty damn cool, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that would be cool. um, yeah, I, that that should already exist. I don't know why it doesn't.
I don't think it does. I've looked, I haven't found it, but like, it just sort of like, oh, I want to see, Alan Prost. Maybe he was, in Monaco, but like, I want every driver's the original Las Vegas, like the 1980, 81 kind of Las Vegas. I want to see every driver's,
Yeah. Yeah,
final lap, something like that. Just sort of even random stuff. It'd just be kind of cool.
that would be
All right.
fascinating.
All right. The last one. Are we talking too much about mental health? So Lando has gone on and on a bit about his mental health. I've heard Ocon talk about it. I saw Valtteri Bottas wrote a long article about his mental health. When I read it, and I found it fascinating. It's like, and we talked about this before. It's sort of like you sort of have to be in a psychotic state. It isn't enough to just have more talent than everyone else on the planet except for maybe 20 people. Okay. You then have to put yourself into a psychotic state to get your body and brain to do this to win. Nonetheless, it's like, look, hey, but if you feel that bad, effing leave, quit. I don't need to hear about it. Is that too harsh? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everyone can have their issues or whatever. Fair enough. You don't need to tell the world about it though. Like, I need to talk about it. Talk about it with a fucking therapist or your mom. I
Right.
don't give a shit.
Right.
Like, listen, Lando, I don't care about you. I'm, there might be a lot of angry people with me that I said that, but like, dude, who cares?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's
oh
been, you
man,
see,
I am depressed because Oscar's better than me. Like, okay, dude, so what? Like, deal with it and then move on. I don't know why it's so important for people to overshare. So that's what this is to me. And maybe this is me being unempathetic, but I don't need to hear about anybody's issues. It's as simple as that. So keep them to yourself. Talk about them with the people who you need to talk about them with. No need to share it with the world. That's how I feel.
What's the line? That is our segment where we predict the top 5 for the next race. The next race is in Monaco in 2 weeks. You know, cross the line. If our driver shows up in the top 5, we'll get a point. If he shows up in the exact right spot we predicted, we get 3 points. Patrick, what are the current standings of across the line?
Okay, standings coming in. Man, we're only 5 races in. So
I know.
Before Montreal, you had 12 points to my 9. Results of Montreal. Top 5 was Antonelli, Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Hadjar. You picked Norris, Russell, Verstappen, Hadjar, Colapinto. So you got 3 points for Verstappen in 3rd, and 1 for Hadjar. You had him in 4th. He actually came in 5th. So that brings you to 16 points on the season. I had Antonelli, Piastri, Hamilton, Gasly, Leclerc. So I got 3 for Antonelli, 1 each for Hamilton and Leclerc, bringing me to 14. So current standings after Canada, 16 you, 14 me.
Nice. You could tell because I think I was a bit nasty to Hadjar there, but I think let's blame Sky Sports because I was focused on their coverage and it was pretty much just on the top 4. So I completely missed Hadjar. All right, so last year at Monaco, Kimi crashed. George had a battery issue in qualifying. Lando set the fastest lap, and then he won. So it was Lando Charles getting P2 on his home race, and Oscar. Alonso had a strong qualifying, and then, so of course, during the race, his engine died on him. What did we say? Last year we said, driving that second Red Bull's like being a red shirt in Star Trek. But so far, Hadjar's, he's evaded that curse. And we said, it looks like Liam is usurping Yuki, and that turned out to be true. All right. For across the line from Monaco 2026, Patrick, who goes first?
I have first pick for Monaco. I'm going to take Leclerc.
Ooh, another win in his home race, possibly. Nice. Nice. Well, I think his luck is going to turn, and it is going to be George. Then I don't think it will be his teammate. I think it will be Mr. Hamilton.
Ooh, nice. Another P2 finish. We'll see. Let's see. I'll take Lando. Bounce back after a troubling Canadian GP. And then we'll go with Kimi.
Nice. Is there an all L across the line? Lewis, Lando, Leclerc, Liam, Lindblad. Hey, we could do that.
Yeah.
All right. So I have George and Lewis. I'm going to go with Alpine, but Pierre Gasly, and then Oscar McLaren.
Okay. Then I'll take. Even after he got a podium, still not convinced with that Red Bull Ford, but I'm going to take Max.
I wonder.
And then, I'll go with his teammate. I'll say Hadjar has 2 solid weekends in a row.
Oh, nice. I was going to take Hadjar. I thought he'd be left to me. So you have Leclerc, Lando, Kimi, Max, and Isaac Hadjar. I have George, Lewis, Pierre Gasly, Oscar Piastri, and let's go with a wild card with Ollie Behrman.
Nice. Let's hope Ocon doesn't blast into him like he did 2 years ago with his teammate Pierre.
Any crazy predictions, Patrick?
I don't have too many crazy predictions. I wrote one down a while ago. Not sure if it's still topical, but I wrote that tires, as we know them, won't exist in 10 years in F1. They won't be like these crazy rubber compounds or whatever that need to be heated and you gotta deal with them all at the right temperature. They're gonna be like weird moon landing type tires that aren't filled with air or just like roll over anything. You won't have to change them. It'll be a weird Formula One, but you'll get all the same grip, no air, no heat. I don't know. It's my
So
crazy prediction.
these compounds, these material
Weird
scientists,
compounds.
you don't know what they're going to come up with. Mine, I mentioned one earlier. I believe all 4 Middle East region races will be canceled this year and none will be made up. So that's 20 race season. My other one, I think racing bulls should be grandfathered in. Red Bull should be allowed to still own them, but there's growing pressure that you can't have 2 teams in F1, and I think they will be forced to sell it. However, I'm going to predict a twist. And F1 is now in a position to be able to do this. That anyone who buys that team or brings in a new team, every power unit manufacturer must have at least 2 teams they're supporting whenever possible. So whoever buys, let's say, Racing Bulls, it can no longer be, well, that one could be a Ford Red Bull. But as you add others, I think they're going to force, like, no, you can't just get a Mercedes engine if you want. You can't just get a Ferrari engine if you want. You would have to go to Audi, for example, or Cadillac when they do one. Anyway, that's kind of my thought. They're going to continue to try to support the power unit companies, makers, let's say. All right. I want to thank you all for listening to Everybody's Most Beloved Father and Son F1 podcast. It is much appreciated. And we are lights out.
See ya. Thanks for listening.